Hey guys, welcome to my shop. Today what I have for you is the new 2021 Honda CRF250L. We're going to do not necessarily a review as much as first impressions. I've always been more into super sports or some form of like race styled motorcycle, and I've been having so much fun dirt biking with my son. He finally outgrew his 110 and now he's taken over the 125, which is what I would ride out there with him. I don't have a bike anymore. So while we're on vacation, we went to a lot of nice places up in Auburn, Hollister Hills with the dirt bikes. But to have all that fun, we needed another dirt bike. So I opted to go with this simply because I could take it to work and continue to ride it. It wouldn't just be sitting in my garage and get used 2, maybe 3 times a year for a $5,000 bike. With this, I'll get a hell of a lot more use out of it. And let's get into the first impressions. Let's get on the ride. Let's see what it's like. We're gonna take it on the street. We're gonna take it on the freeway. We'll take it on some back roads. We'll take it on, I'll show some clips of Hollister Hills and up in Auburn where I rode. And I'll give you my 5 likes and 5 dislikes so far of the bike and my first impressions.
Alright, so for starters, we're going to start out on some back roads, have a little bit of fun, going into Atascadero. We're going to get some growlers from Santa Maria Brewing Co. Got a little double growler backpack on right now. But number one, so the thing I like the most about this bike is the easy one, which is it's an enduro. I can take it anywhere I want. I drive it to off-road, or ride the damn thing to work for a commuter. Either way, it's nice having that capability to do either thing in such an inexpensive motorcycle. So number 2 is going to be price. It is a very inexpensive bike at what, $5,300, $5,400, depending on whether or not you get ABS, maybe $5,100. That's pretty damn inexpensive for what you get. It is definitely freeway capable. I'd say just minimal freeway capable, but it is freeway capable. Number 3 would be the ABS. I know that for some that is definitely not a positive. For me it is a positive, and that's because, well, I've crashed before, and I would say some of that was based off the fact I didn't have ABS. Now of course I can't blame not having ABS as my crash. I had a brand new 600. I was a new rider. Probably shouldn't have been on that bike in the first place, but it had no ABS, had no slipper clutch, and I was just learning how to ride. So for me, ABS is a plus. On top of that, at least with this bike, when you're off-road, you can turn it off. So you don't have to have ABS at all the time. At least the rear wheel. It'll only shut off the rear wheel, but it does at least shut off the rear wheel so you can slide it around and have some more fun with it. So that part, that part's really nice. So for number 4, the miles per gallon. It's like 60-ish miles per gallon. So if you're using this as a commuter, that is pretty damn good. It's hard to beat. It's hard to beat having that mile per gallon behind you there. So for some off-road, I'll go ahead and show a clip for Auburn. We rode up in Auburn. We did Mammoth OHV Park, and I did that with my son after we had bought this bike. We had an absolute blast out there. Which is going to have to be the fact that it is just like the old school Honda Civic back in the day. There's any and every type of modification you want to do to this bike is available and generally reasonably priced. So you could just mod this thing out and go to town with it. Ultimately, all the things you may not like about it, they all could be purchased in some way, shape, or form. This thing could be upgraded, new suspension, bigger fuel tank if fuel tank is your issue. But ultimately, you could just go crazy with this thing. I'd say the little hard knobby tires actually do okay. You can get it at decent lean angles too, which is kind of cool. So before we get on to the negatives, I'll throw up a clip here of some of the riding we did up in Hollister Hills. What an absolute blast that was. Hell, our whole vacation was amazing, honestly. The only thing I regret is not buying this bike before Truckee. I think in Truckee we would have had even more fun. But so here's Hollister Hills. We had an awesome time. It's like a mountain bike park or a ski resort for dirt bikes. Tons of green trails, blue trails, black diamonds, whatever you want. It's freaking awesome. As well as tracks for almost every style or interest in riding and skill level. So super cool. You should totally check it out if you're in California. Okay, so my first negative for the bike is going to be the front forks. They are brutally soggy, non-adjustable. They're barely adequate for the bike. Now don't get me wrong, I'm a fairly hefty individual. I think with all my gear on, I'm probably around 215, maybe 220 with the growlers I'm about to have on my back. But I know it's definitely a way to cut costs, but at least a little bit of adjustability would have been cool with them. I mean, I know for sure, like, it's a negative, but ultimately you could go buy some inserts for it, or you could buy better shocks and upgrade the bike. You know, you're looking at, well, I already bought this bike for so cheap, I'm not interested in dumping more money into it, and that's true too. I'm not either, and I won't be doing that, at least for a while anyway. But at least the capability is there if that's a route you want to go. So number two is going to be the fuel tank. It's only like 2.1 gallons. You are not going very far away from a fueling station. On top of that, you know, the fuel light kicks on. I'd say it seems like it's around 30 miles left to the tank. It's just a rough estimate, because I'd say if I'm getting on average around 60-ish miles per gallon, that fuel light's coming on around 90-ish miles. So number three is going to be the weight. It's like 320 some pounds dry. The issue with that would be obviously on the dirt, the thing's super heavy. And if you're trying to do some crazy black diamond, steep downhill trails, get yourself in a hairy situation, this thing is gonna be hard as hell to pick up. If you drop it, obviously. Hopefully you don't. But if it does happen on the side of a hill, I mean, that's gonna be dangerous as shit. It's freaking heavy. In addition to it being heavy, that is probably part of it would be it's obviously a street motorcycle, and at 320, 350, depending on what's going on there, it is not heavy enough to block wind, man. This thing really just blows around in any kind of wind. You'll see when I do the freeway test if there's wind or not, but ultimately, when you're riding down the road, I could probably handle 75, 80, the bike feels acceptable going down the freeway with no wind. But as soon as you start getting some wind, you start flying around back and forth on the road, you feel real, it gets a little squeamish, and I usually slow down to around 65-ish just to not feel like I'm going to fly off the damn bike and off the road, which obviously those are things you get used to the more you ride. When I first bought the bike, for sure, I was following my wife in the truck. She was in the truck, and I was following her back to the campsite where we had our travel trailer. and I was scared to death when I first bought this thing. 60, 65 on the freeway, it's moving around, it's fishing. You're all a little nervous, like, oh shit, this thing does not feel good on the freeway. And yeah, you get over that. I got over that. It's perfectly fine for me now. Like I said, I mean, 80 is kind of pushing it for me. I start feeling a little squirmy on it. And then, of course, if there's any wind, very screamy, or I feel very unsettled, essentially. But yeah, so number 4 is going to be the shifting, and that's probably because it's a new bike. I haven't gotten it through its first oil change, which is going to be shortly here. So if you're interested in an oil change, and or maybe I'm probably going to put Pro Taper bars on it, put in my little heated cable so I can use my heated jacket because it's getting cold. So I'll do videos on all those things. So if you're interested in watching those, like, comment, subscribe, turn that little bell on so when I finally pop out that video, you get to check it out. But back to the shifting. I'm sure once I change the oil, it'll be a little bit better. If not, worst case scenario, I'll do some adjustments and we'll be fine. Hopefully it's not like my 400. I mean, I don't feel the clutch slipping or anything like that. My 400 was like that. It was brutal. I'd get it into a hard corner and just try and freaking get out of that corner with some speed, and I could just feel that clutch sliding. But that was also a cheap $30 fix to replace the springs, and my 400 has got a nice clutch, or it feels strong now anyway. But the video's not about the 400. I just ramble. Alright, it's freeway time. Got the growlers. Such a great place. If you're in Tascadero, Santa Maria area, Santa Maria Brewing Co. That popo. So you can see it handles 70-ish very easily, which is probably what you probably should be driving. It's around 72-ish. Just gotta make sure that ain't a cop before we speed up a little bit. Yeah, we good. Alright, so there's a little bit of wind out here, not much. I'm moving around pretty good. I'm hitting 77-ish already. But you'll notice it doesn't have that much power. It moves around quite a bit on the freeway. You get used to the, you know, the little kind of fishtail it does. It's, you know, it's not like you're on good tires. You're on freaking dirt tires on the freeway going freaking 80. So it's not amazing by any means, but it's enough, like I said, to get you where you need to go. I wouldn't spend hours at a time riding this thing on the freeway, but it's not bad for like a commute. So will it do freeway? Yeah, definitely. It handles reasonable speeds in my opinion. But like I said before, you're not going to go ripping through traffic. You're not going to get yourself away from danger. You're better off either slowing down and getting away from the cell phoners, or crossing your fingers, I guess.
Well, that about does it. I hope you guys enjoyed the ride. I hope you got some good information out of this video. I know I enjoy so far thoroughly riding this bike. I have an absolute blast with it. Even with all the negatives, I'm really enjoying it. So thanks for watching my video, and we'll see you next week.
Is this thing? Oh, get the fuck out. It's a Supra. Hell yeah. Right on. Wonder if he wants to race the 250L, baby. Shit. Put the smack down, dragging some fucking knees out here, but I'll tell you what.